The unicorn. A horse with a horn. That's it. Sounds ridiculously simple, right? And yet somehow this basic concept became one of the most powerful, most valuable symbols in entire human history. Never underestimate the power of adding one pointy thing. In medieval Europe, unicorns were said to be so impossibly pure that only a virgin could tame them. Convenient myth for poets trying to sound deep and priests pushing purity culture. Less convenient for the poor teenage girls actually sent into forests as literal bait. Just sit there looking innocent, Barbara, the magic horse will come. But unicorns weren't even born in Europe. Ancient India and Persia mentioned them first, probably inspired by travelers who saw rhinoceroses from a distance and got extremely creative with their travel journals. It was basically a horse, but with one horn and way more magical. Sure, Jeff. Greek historians swore unicorns were completely real, because apparently nothing says credible science, like describing a magical horse, based entirely on hearsay from a guy who knew a guy. Unicorn horns were believed to cure everything, so royals paid fortunes for them. Most turned out to be narwhal tusks. The unicorn became a mix of purity, power, and costly illusion. A myth people kept chasing. Even today, from art to tech startups, the unicorn legend lives on. The Basilisk, the so-called king of serpents, and possibly the smallest tyrant ever imagined. Legend said it could kill with a single glance. No bite, no hiss, just eye contact. Instant game over. Talk about having a killer stare. The earliest stories came from Rome, where Pliny the Elder described a snake so venomous its breath could crack stones and scorch the earth. Sounds absolutely terrifying until you learn one crucial detail. It was supposedly only 12 inches long. A foot-long apocalypse. Imagine being defeated by something you could step over. Then came the medieval remix, because ancient myths weren't weird enough. The basilisk was allegedly born from a rooster's egg hatched by a toad or a serpent. Yes, you read that right. Chicken drama meets horror fantasy meets biological impossibility. Medieval people really said, what if we made this weirder? But even pocket-sized monsters have weaknesses. The basilisk's mortal enemy? The humble weasel. People genuinely believed weasels were immune to the creature's deadly gaze and could kill it with their smell. Nature's weirdest rivalry, brought to you by medieval imagination and questionable zoology. So the basilisk ruled medieval fear for centuries, a symbol of sin, plague, and death itself. Churches carved warnings about it. Bestiaries dedicated entire chapters to it. Yet, in the end, it was just another legend that couldn't survive the sunlight of actual science. The Chimera. The mythological definition of too much, part lion, part goat, part serpent, all nightmare. Someone looked at three perfectly terrifying animals and thought, what if we combined them into one? The result? Pure chaos with hooves. According to Greek legend, it stalked the land of Lycia, breathing fire, burning fields, and turning heroes into well-done barbecue. Villages trembled, warriors fled. Until Bellerophon arrived, riding Pegasus like some ancient Top Gun pilot, and speared the monster straight through the heart. Classic hero moment. Problem solved with violence and a flying horse. But the Chimera's story didn't end with its death. Some historians believe the legend was inspired by fossil discoveries scattered across ancient landscapes. Ancient people found bones from different species, misinterpreted them as a single hybrid creature, and boom, instant mythology. Science fiction before there was actual science. Prehistoric misunderstanding meets creative storytelling. Symbolically, the Chimera became more than just a monster. It represented chaos, unnatural fusion, a warning that not every combination belongs in nature or in the human mind. Don't play God. Don't mix what shouldn't be mixed. Even today, we use the word chimera for genetic hybrids, failed laboratory experiments, and impossible dreams that can never come true. Scientists literally borrowed a monster's name for their work. It never existed in flesh and blood, and yet it still lives in our language, our fears, and our eternal obsession with creating monsters. Because sometimes the scariest creature of all isn't out there in some ancient forest. It's imagination itself. The griffin. Half eagle, half lion, all attitude. A creature so ridiculously extra, it didn't settle for one apex predator. No, it had to combine two. Wings of the sky, claws of the savannah. Basically, nature's first hostile corporate merger. And somehow, it worked. In Greek legends, griffins guarded massive treasure hoards in the mountains of Scythia, fighting off gold-hungry humans and one-eyed raiders called the Arimaspians. The moral of the story? Don't mess with flying lions that have a serious thing for shiny objects. They will end you. Some historians believe griffin myths began with ancient people misreading dinosaur fossils, turning bones into fantasy. Over time, the griffin became a powerful royal and religious symbol, used like medieval branding. Despite its odd hybrid form, it endured for centuries, proving that impossible combinations often create the most lasting legends. The Phoenix. So unbelievably dramatic, it literally turns death into a theatrical performance. When its time comes, it doesn't just fall over like some exhausted pigeon on a sidewalk. Oh no, it bursts into flames, burns completely to ashes, and then rises again, brand new, from its own smoldering remains. The ultimate comeback story. Eat your heart out. Every reality TV show ever. The legend started way back in ancient Egypt with the Bennu bird, sacred to the sun god Ra. Then the Greeks and Romans got hold of it and took things further, turning it into a symbol of immortality, rebirth, and divine renewal. Even early Christians saw it as proof of resurrection. Nothing like borrowing a cool myth for your own purposes. But the phoenix wasn't always fire and glory and Instagram-worthy symbolism. In some versions of the story, it looked more like a giant heron. In others, a peacock on steroids. Imagine dying gloriously in flames and coming back as flamboyant poultry. Still counts as immortality, technically. The core idea stuck through millennia though. Destruction, rebirth, hope. The cycle of endings creating new beginnings. From ancient temple walls to modern tattoos covering questionable life choices to sports team logos, the phoenix keeps rising. It's everywhere. Why does it endure? Because deep down, past all the cynicism and reality, we all want to believe we can burn everything down and start fresh. That failure isn't final. That we can rise from our own ashes too. Cerberus, the ultimate guard dog. 3 heads, a serpent tail, and a job description pulled straight from hell. Literally. No exaggeration there. In Greek mythology, Cerberus stood at the gates of the underworld, the final security checkpoint between life and death. His mission, beautifully simple. Keep the dead in and the living out. Think of him as the world's first bouncer, except instead of a velvet rope and a clipboard, he had 3 sets of teeth and eternal damnation. No guest list exceptions. Heroes constantly tried to outsmart him, because heroes have egos. Orpheus lulled him to sleep with music, proving that even hellhounds appreciate a good tune. Psyche fed him honey cakes, because apparently infernal guardians have a sweet tooth. And Heracles, because subtlety was never remotely his thing, just wrestled all 3 heads into submission with pure brute force. Classic Heracles move. When in doubt, punch harder. Cerberus wasn't an evil monster, but a loyal guardian doing his job, preventing souls from escaping the underworld. Loved by artists and symbolizing death and control, he represented order standing watch over chaos. The most unsettling part is that he never failed. Cerberus was duty perfected. The Leviathan. A creature so incomprehensibly vast, even the Bible called it the monster of the deep, and then basically gave up trying to describe it properly. Born from primordial chaos, forged in the darkest waters where light never reaches, the Leviathan wasn't just another beast. It was a living symbol of everything humanity couldn't control, couldn't understand, couldn't defeat. In ancient Hebrew texts, it was the serpent coiling beneath the entire world, a sea dragon breathing smoke and flame from the depths. Its scales were said to be completely impenetrable, its roar capable of shaking entire oceans. Medieval scholars described it as the literal devil of the waters, a living storm sent to remind humanity of its tiny, insignificant place in creation. Some myths claimed only God could defeat the Leviathan, symbolizing the ultimate battle between order and chaos. Though the creature faded, its idea lived on, inspiring every sea monster legend that followed. In the end, the story isn't about the monster, but about humanity's deep fear that the ocean still hides something ancient, unseen, and watching. Dragons, the absolute celebrities of mythical creatures. If myths had a red carpet premiere, dragons would arrive in a flaming chariot, setting paparazzi on fire and somehow making it look elegant. No apologies given. In Europe, they were cast as ultimate villains, massive winged reptiles with terrible tempers and even worse manners. They hoarded gold like medieval billionaires, kidnapped princesses as a hobby, and made knights feel important by existing. Basically, the entire career boost system for medieval heroes. No dragon, no glory, no song written about you. But in the East, dragons completely flipped the script in the best way possible. In China, they were wise, majestic, divine bringers of rain and prosperity. No fire breathing, no princess kidnapping, just sophisticated weather control and cosmic power. The emperor himself was called the Son of the Dragon, which honestly sounds infinitely cooler than king or your majesty. Dragons appear in every culture, from Norse and Babylonian myths to countless others, inspiring awe and fear in different forms. They endure because they blend powerful opposites, wisdom and chaos, beauty and destruction, reflecting both our fears and desires. Though never real, dragons have ruled human imagination for over 5,000 years, achieving a kind of immortality no living creature ever has. The mosquito, the deadliest animal on planet Earth. Not lions with their mighty roars, not sharks with their horror movie reputation. This tiny buzzing vampire kills more humans than all wars in history combined. Let that sink in. While we spent centuries creating elaborate myths about dragons and sea monsters, the real killer was hovering around our heads the entire time, too small to even take seriously. Malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, Zika, West Nile virus. The mosquito is basically a flying syringe of death carrying every nightmare disease evolution could create. Ancient myths feared creatures that could swallow ships whole or turn men to stone with a glance. Meanwhile, something the size of a grain of rice was actually ending civilizations. Entire armies brought down not by swords or strategy, but by infected bites during campaign season. Alexander the Great, possibly killed by a mosquito. All that conquering ended by an insect. Humans glorified mythical monsters while ignoring the real deadliest one, the mosquito, which kills over 700,000 people every year. The true terror isn't in fire-breathing legends, but in tiny, overlooked creatures that quietly dominate reality. Sometimes, real life is far scarier than any myth.